Logan, you weren't supposed to hear that conversation.
I heard every word, Paige, including how I'm not good enough for you.
They say drywall and relationships have one thing in common. They're only as strong as what you can't see behind them. I should have paid more attention to my own advice. My name is Logan Barrett, and I've been building walls for 15 years. Houses, offices, dreams. You name it, I've framed it. What I never expected was having to tear down my own life, brick by brick, to get to the truth rotting underneath. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. It started on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were always our grocery day, and Paige was supposed to meet me at the store after work. Instead, I got a text. Working late again, rain check on dinner? Paige Ellington, soon to be Paige Barrett, according to the engagement ring burning a hole in my dresser drawer, had been working late a lot lately. Her accounting firm was supposedly swamped with year-end audits, but something felt off. Maybe it was the way she'd started putting her phone face down during dinner, or how she'd suddenly developed an interest in expensive perfume. You smell different, I'd mentioned the week before, nuzzling her neck after she came home from another late night. It's just the new body wash, she'd said, pulling away. You wouldn't understand. It's not from Home Depot. That stung. Paige had always made little comments about my rough hands, my work boots by the door, the way I smelled like sawdust even after showering. But lately, the jokes felt sharper, meaner. I was installing crown molding in Mrs. Henderson's living room when my phone buzzed. A FaceTime call from Paige. I almost didn't answer. I was covered in dust and paint. But curiosity got the better of me. Hey, babe, I said, propping the phone against my toolbox. What's up? But Paige wasn't looking at the camera. She was talking to someone off-screen, laughing in that high, fake way she used at office parties. I mean, seriously, Mom, she was saying. I could do so much better. Logan still smells like sawdust half the time. Can you imagine introducing him to the partners? My hand froze on the nail gun. She was talking to her mother, Gloria, the woman who'd made it clear from day one that her daughter was settling for a contractor. Paige is just having fun, Gloria's voice crackled through the speaker. She'd never actually marry a man who builds walls for a living, not when there are so many better options out there. Exactly, Paige giggled. It's not like I'm going to say yes when he finally gets around to proposing. I mean, have you seen the ring he's probably picked out? Probably got it from some pawn shop. The crown molding slipped from my hands, clattering to the floor. The sound must have carried through the phone because Paige suddenly looked at the screen. Oh, Logan, hi, honey. I didn't realize you were there. Yeah, I said quietly, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. I can see that. She had the decency to look embarrassed, but not apologetic. Never apologetic. We were just talking about... I heard what you were talking about. I picked up my phone, looking directly into her eyes through the screen. Crystal clear, actually. That night, I sat in my garage with a beer and the engagement ring I'd been carrying around for 3 months. 2 carats, princess cut, from the best jeweler in town, not a pawn shop. I'd worked overtime for 6 months to afford it. My phone buzzed. A text from my crew chief, Big Mike. Drinks at Murphy's? You look like you need one. Murphy's Tavern was our usual spot. A dive bar where the beer was cheap and nobody cared if you showed up in work clothes. Mike was already there when I arrived, his massive frame hunched over a whiskey. Rough day? He asked, signaling the bartender for another round. You could say that. I told him about the FaceTime call, about Paige's comments. Mike listened without interrupting, which was unusual for him. Man, he said finally. That's cold, even for an accountant. The worst part is, she's probably right. What do I have to offer someone like her? I fix things for a living. She manages million-dollar accounts. Hey, Mike's voice got serious. You built my kitchen from scratch when my wife left me. Wouldn't take a dime for it. You're worth 10 of her. But his words didn't help. I went home to find Paige already asleep, or pretending to be. Her phone was charging on the nightstand, and for the first time in our 3-year relationship, I looked at it. 17 missed calls from someone named Jordan Witt. The name sounded familiar. I'd heard Paige mention him before. Some hotshot from the corporate office who'd been mentoring her. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I lay there planning. If Paige wanted to play games, she'd pick the wrong handyman. I knew how to build things, but I also knew how to tear them down. And I was very, very good at both. The next morning, Paige was already gone when I woke up. She'd left a note. Early meeting. Don't wait up tonight. I called in sick to work and spent the day doing research. Jordan Witt, 32, senior account manager at Morrison & Associates, Paige's firm. LinkedIn showed a guy with perfect teeth and a suit that probably cost more than my truck payment. His Facebook was private, but his Instagram wasn't. Plenty of photos from expensive restaurants, wine tastings, company events, and in the background of several recent photos, Paige. My phone rang. Tina from my crew. Logan, Mike said you were sick, but you sound fine. What's going on? Tina Rodriguez was the sharpest person I knew. Had to be, being one of the few women in construction. She'd worked with me for 5 years and had a sixth sense for reading people. Relationship troubles, I admitted. Paige? How'd you guess? Women notice things, Logan, like how she started wearing different perfume to the job sites, or how she always checked her phone when that suit guy came around for inspections. Jordan Witt? That's the one. Slick as a whistle and twice as loud. He was definitely sniffing around. My grip tightened on the phone. How long have you known? Suspected for a few weeks, but I figured it wasn't my place to say anything. Besides, I thought maybe I was wrong. You weren't wrong. That evening, I was waiting in the kitchen when Paige came home at nearly midnight. Her hair was messed up, her lipstick gone. How was your meeting? I asked. Long, boring. You know how it is. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Actually, I don't. Why don't you tell me about it? Something in my tone must have tipped her off because she finally looked at me. It really looked. What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out my phone and showed her Jordan's Instagram, a photo from that very evening, him at some upscale bar downtown, raising a toast. In the reflection of the window behind him, barely visible, but definitely there. Paige. Her face went white. Logan, I can explain. I'm sure you can. You're good with numbers, right? So explain this math. You left work at 5:30, according to your text. It's now midnight. That's 6.5 hours for a meeting that lasted, 2 hours? Where were you for the other 4.5? We went for drinks afterward, to discuss the Morrison account. Ah, I nodded slowly. The Morrison account. Is that what we're calling it now? She tried to storm past me, but I stepped into her path. Move, Logan. Not until we finish this conversation. There's nothing to discuss. You're being paranoid and jealous, and I don't have time for it. Paranoid? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Paige, I heard you tell your mother you'd never marry me. I've seen the photos. I know about Jordan. For a moment, her mask slipped. I saw something cold and calculating in her eyes that I'd never noticed before. So what if there is someone else? What are you going to do about it, Logan? Build me a timeout corner? The contempt in her voice hit me like a physical blow. This woman I'd loved for 3 years, who I'd planned to spend my life with, was looking at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. You're right, I said quietly. I am just a contractor. I build things, but I also know how to tear them down, piece by piece, until there's nothing left but rubble. Something flickered across her face, fear, maybe, or recognition. Are you threatening me? No, Paige. I'm promising you. I stepped aside, letting her pass. Sweet dreams. She hurried upstairs, and I heard the bedroom door slam. I sat back down at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. Time to get to work. The next week, I became a detective. Amazing how much you can learn about someone when you actually pay attention. Our phone plan was in my name, had been since we moved in together. A quick call to customer service, claiming I needed to review suspicious charges, got me 3 months of call logs. Paige had been talking to Jordan Witt every single day, sometimes for hours. I also discovered our joint savings account, the one we'd been building for the wedding, had some interesting activity. Expensive dinners, hotel charges, shopping trips to stores I'd never heard of, all on days when Paige claimed to be working late or having girls' nights. You're getting scary good at this, Tina said when I showed her the evidence. We were sitting in my garage, which had become my unofficial war room. I'd pinned up printouts like some kind of detective show. I'm thorough. It's why I'm good at my job. Speaking of jobs, you might want to know something. She looked uncomfortable. I was talking to my friend Lisa. She works at Morrison & Associates in HR. There's been some talk about inappropriate workplace relationships. What kind of talk? The kind that gets people fired. Apparently Jordan's been a little too friendly with several junior employees over the years. Nothing official, but HR's been keeping an eye on him. An idea began forming. How official would it need to be? Photos, witnesses, documentation. Why? I smiled for the first time in days. Because I'm very good at documentation. That Saturday, I followed them. I know how that sounds, but I needed proof. Real, undeniable proof. They met at the Riverside Hotel, the nicest place in town. I sat in my truck across the street with a telephoto lens I'd borrowed from my photographer neighbor. What I saw made my stomach turn. Jordan had his hands all over her, and she was loving every minute of it. They looked like a real couple, the kind that belonged together in their expensive clothes and perfect hair. But they made a mistake. They got careless. I watched Jordan hand Paige an envelope, thick like it contained cash. She counted the contents, nodded, and slipped it into her purse. Then they kissed, long and passionate, right there in the hotel lobby where anyone could see, including the security cameras. Monday morning, I called Morrison & Associates. HR department, this is Jennifer speaking. Hi, I'd like to report a violation of company policy. I have evidence of a senior employee engaging in an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate. Can you hold, please? 5 minutes later, a different voice came on the line. Older, more serious. This is Margaret Walsh, HR director. I understand you have a complaint to file. That's right. Jordan Witt and Paige Ellington. I have photos, call records, and financial documentation. There was a long pause. And you are? Someone who cares about workplace ethics. I can email everything to you within the hour. Please do. And sir, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I spent the rest of the morning crafting the perfect email. Professional, factual, devastating, photos of them together, copies of the hotel receipts charged to our joint account, even a screenshot of Jordan's Instagram story from their business dinner. By Wednesday, the dominoes started falling. Paige came home early, her face streaked with tears and mascara. They suspended me, she said, collapsing on the couch. Pending investigation. Suspended? From what? Don't play dumb, Logan. I know it was you. I looked up from my newspaper. Actually looked up like I was surprised. I have no idea what you're talking about. The HR complaint, the photos. Who else would have access to our bank records? Maybe someone who actually cares about professional ethics. Or maybe Jordan's not as discreet as you thought. She stared at me with pure hatred. You bastard. You're trying to destroy my career. I'm not trying to do anything, Paige. I'm succeeding. That got her attention. She stood up, hands clenched into fists. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm just getting started. I folded the newspaper and set it aside. See, you made one crucial mistake. You underestimated the guy who just builds walls. You can't do this to me. I already am. And here's the beautiful part. It's all perfectly legal. I haven't lied about anything, haven't broken any laws. I've just made sure the right people know the truth. She tried a different approach, softening her voice. Logan, please, we can work this out. It was just a stupid mistake. I never meant for it to go this far. How far exactly? The months of lying? The stolen money? Or just the part where you told your mother I wasn't good enough to marry? Her face crumpled. You heard that? Every word. And you know what the funny thing is? You were right. I'm not good enough for you. I'm too honest, too loyal, too decent. But that doesn't mean I'm going to let you walk all over me. My phone buzzed. A text from Big Mike. Jordan's at Murphy's, drunk and talking shit about you. Thought you should know. Perfect timing. I have to go out, I told Paige. Don't wait up. Murphy's was packed for a Wednesday night. I spotted Jordan immediately. He was holding court at the bar, still in his expensive suit, but looking rumpled and desperate. Contractor thinks he can mess with me, he was saying to anyone who'd listen. Some blue-collar nobody who doesn't know his place. I walked up behind him. You talking about me, Jordan? He spun around, nearly falling off his bar stool. Up close, he was even more pathetic than I'd imagined. Weak chin, soft hands, the kind of guy who'd never done a day of real work in his life. Logan. He tried to sound confident, but his voice cracked. I was wondering when you'd show up. Here I am. You got something to say to me? The bar had gone quiet. Everyone was watching, waiting. Yeah, I do. He stood up, swaying slightly. Your girlfriend's a hell of a lay. Bit of a screamer, if you know what I mean. The entire bar went silent. I felt every eye on me, waiting to see what I'd do. I smiled. That's funny, Jordan. Because according to HR, she's about to be your ex-coworker. And according to her credit report, she's about to be homeless. But hey, at least you two can be unemployed together. What are you talking about? Oh, you didn't know? The investigation's expanding. Turns out you've been using company resources for personal entertainment. That hotel room you charged to the Morrison account? The one you thought nobody would notice? Yeah, they noticed. His face went white. You're lying. Am I? Check your email. He fumbled for his phone, hands shaking. I watched his face as he read the message that had arrived an hour ago. The the one I knew would be there because Tina's friend Lisa had given me a heads up. Effective immediately, you're terminated for misuse of company funds and violation of workplace conduct policies. Jordan looked up at me, his face a mask of rage and desperation. You snake. You destroyed my life. No, Jordan. I just made sure everyone else could see what you really are. He swung at me, a wild, drunken haymaker that I saw coming from a mile away. I stepped aside and let him stumble past me, crashing into an empty table. Anyone else want to take a shot? I asked the room. Or can I buy everyone around to celebrate honest work and faithful relationships? The bar erupted in cheers. Big Mike slapped me on the back so hard I nearly fell over. That's my boy, he shouted. Drinks are on Logan. I looked down at Jordan, still sprawled on the floor, his expensive suit torn and dirty. Here's some free advice, Jordan. Next time you want to steal another man's woman, make sure he's not smarter than you are. I left him there and drove home, feeling better than I had in weeks. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Paige was waiting for me in the kitchen, her face puffy from crying. They fired Jordan, she said. I heard. This is all your fault. No, Paige, this is all your fault. I just made sure there were consequences. She stood up, and for a moment I thought she might hit me. Instead, she grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Where are you going? Somewhere I don't have to look at you. Good luck with that. But just so you know, the lease is in my name. The car you're driving, my name's on the title. The credit cards you've been using for your little shopping sprees, also mine. She froze in the doorway. You wouldn't. Try me. She slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. I sat back down at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. Time for phase 3. Paige came crawling back 2 days later. I was installing new cabinets in the kitchen, our kitchen, though not for much longer, when she walked in looking like she'd been sleeping in her car. We need to talk, she said. Do we? I didn't look up from my drill. Because last I heard, you didn't have to look at me anymore. Logan, please, I made a mistake. A huge mistake. But we can fix this. Now I looked at her. Really looked. Her perfect hair was greasy, her designer clothes wrinkled. The woman who'd always been obsessed with her appearance looked like she'd hit rock bottom. Fix what, exactly? Your job? Your reputation? Your credit score? What do you mean, my credit score? I set down my drill and pulled out my phone. Funny thing about joint accounts, Paige. When one person maxes out all the credit cards on hotels and restaurants for an affair, it affects both people's credit. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I called the credit companies and explained the situation. Her face went pale. You didn't. I did. Turns out they're very understanding when you provide documentation of fraudulent charges. They've frozen all the accounts pending investigation. Those weren't fraudulent. I'm an authorized user. Were. Past tense. I removed you yesterday. She sank into a chair, the fight going out of her. Logan, you're destroying me. I'm not destroying anything, Paige. I'm just stopping you from destroying me. My phone rang. Big Mike. Logan, you need to get down here, now. What's wrong? Jordan's at the job site. He's got a crowbar and he's talking crazy. I grabbed my keys. Call the cops. I'll be right there. Where are you going? Paige asked. To clean up another one of your messes. The Riverside construction site was chaos when I arrived. Jordan was standing in the middle of the foundation we'd poured that morning, swinging a crowbar at anything within reach. My crew was standing at a safe distance, but they looked ready to rush him if he got too close to the equipment. Jordan, I called out. What the hell are you doing? He spun around, and I could see he was completely unhinged. His suit was dirty, his hair wild, his eyes bloodshot. You, he screamed. You ruined everything. I didn't ruin anything. You did that all by yourself. I loved her. We were going to be together. Were you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you were just using her for closeness and she was using you for money. That hit home. He stumbled, nearly dropping the crowbar. That's not... We had something real. Really? Then where is she now? Why isn't she here defending you? He looked around like he expected Paige to materialize out of thin air. When she didn't, something broke inside him. This is all your fault, he said, raising the crowbar. If you just let her go. Let her go? Jordan, she was never yours to begin with. She was mine, and you stole her. But here's the thing about stolen goods. They never really belonged to you. He charged at me, swinging the crowbar wildly. I'd been in enough bar fights to know how to handle myself, but Jordan was desperate and unpredictable. I dodged the first swing, grabbed a 2x4 from the lumber pile, and blocked the second. The impact sent vibrations up my arms, but I held on. You want to dance, Jordan? Let's dance. What followed wasn't pretty. Jordan had rage on his side, but I had skill, experience, and 15 years of swinging heavy tools for a living. It ended with him on the ground, the crowbar 20 feet away, and my boot on his chest. "Stay down," I warned. "The cops are already on their way." He was crying now, all the fight gone out of him. She said she loved me. She told me the same thing. The difference is, I was stupid enough to believe it. The police arrived 5 minutes later. They arrested Jordan for trespassing and destruction of property, but not before he'd done several $1,000s in damage to the site. "You want to press charges?" Officer Martinez asked me. I looked at Jordan, handcuffed in the back of the patrol car. He looked pathetic, broken. "Yeah," I said. "I do." That evening, I was back home fixing the cabinet doors when Paige appeared again. She'd cleaned herself up, put on makeup, worn the dress I'd always liked. "I heard about what happened today," she said softly. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Jordan's in jail." "Logan, I'm sorry. About everything. About Jordan. About the things I said. About the money. I was confused and stupid, and I hurt the best man I've ever known." She moved closer, reaching out to touch my arm. I stepped back. "Don't. Please. We can start over. We can go to counseling, work through this. I'll do whatever it takes." "Whatever it takes? Really?" "Yes. Anything." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the engagement ring, the one I'd been carrying around for months, the one that had cost me 6 months of overtime. Her eyes lit up. "Logan, yes, yes, I'll marry you." I looked at the ring, then at her, then back at the ring. "This ring cost me $8,000, I said quietly. "I worked 60-hour weeks for 6 months to pay for it. I wanted it to be perfect because I thought you were perfect. I can be perfect again, I promise." "No, Paige, you can't. Because perfect people don't cheat. Perfect people don't lie. Perfect people don't steal money from the man who loves them to pay for hotel rooms with their boyfriend." I walked to the kitchen sink and held the ring over the garbage disposal. "Logan, no, please." "You're right. This is too good for the garbage disposal." Instead, I walked outside to my truck and placed the ring on the ground in front of the rear tire. "What are you doing?" Something I should have done months ago. I got in the truck and backed over the ring. The sound of the diamond cracking under 8,000 pounds of steel was surprisingly satisfying. When I got out, Paige was on her knees, frantically searching through the gravel for pieces of the shattered ring. "You're insane," she screamed. "That was worth $8,000. Was. Past tense. Now it's worth about as much as your promises." She stood up, her dress dirty, her makeup running again. "I hate you," she whispered. "Good. That makes this easier." I handed her an envelope. "Eviction notice. You have 30 days to find somewhere else to live." "You can't evict me. I live here." "Check the lease page. My name only. You're just a guest who's overstayed her welcome." She ripped open the envelope, reading frantically. "This is legal?" "Perfectly legal. I had a lawyer draw it up. Same lawyer who's handling the fraud charges against you and Jordan." "Fraud charges?" "Using our joint credit cards for personal expenses related to your affair constitutes fraud. The DA's office was very interested in the evidence I provided." She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. "Who are you? This isn't the Logan I know." "You're right. The Logan you knew was a sucker. He believed in love and loyalty and happily ever after. But that Logan passed away the day he heard his fiancée tell her mother he wasn't good enough to marry." I started walking toward the house. "Where are you going?" "Inside. My house, my rules. You can sleep in your car for all I care." "Logan, wait." I turned around one last time. "What?" "I really did love you. At the beginning." "I know," I said. "That's what makes this so much worse." I went inside and locked the door behind me. Through the window, I watched Paige stand in the driveway for a long time, staring at the pieces of the broken ring scattered in the gravel. Finally, she got in her car and drove away. I poured myself a beer and sat down at my laptop. Phase 4 was about to begin, and it was going to be the most satisfying yet. The Morrison and Associates annual company picnic was legendary, an all-day affair with catered food, open bar, and enough workplace gossip to fuel a soap opera. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't have been seen at an accounting firm's social event, but these weren't normal circumstances. "You sure about this?" Tina asked as we walked across the park toward the pavilion. She'd gotten us invitations through her friend Lisa in HR. "Absolutely. Paige wants to play the victim, tell everyone I'm the bad guy who destroyed her career. Let's give her an audience." The party was in full swing when we arrived. I spotted Paige immediately. She was holding court near the dessert table, surrounded by sympathetic coworkers. She'd clearly been working the crowd, playing up the wronged woman angle. "There she is," Tina muttered. "Little Miss Innocent." Not for long. I'd spent the past week preparing for this moment. Every detail planned, every contingency covered. This wasn't just revenge, it was performance art. We made our way to the bar, where I ordered 2 beers and waited. It didn't take long for someone to notice me. "Excuse me," said a woman in her 50s. "Aren't you Paige's fiancé?" "Ex-fiancé," I corrected. "Logan Barrett." "Oh." She looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize you two had broken up." "It's complicated. Mind if I ask what she's been telling people?" The woman, her name tag read Susan from accounting, glanced nervously toward Paige. "Well, she said you had some kind of breakdown when you found out about her promotion, that you became controlling and jealous and tried to sabotage her career." "Interesting story. Did she mention the part about sleeping with Jordan Witt for 6 months while planning our wedding?" Susan's eyes widened. "What?" "No, she said there was nothing between them, that you made it all up." "Made it up?" I pulled out my phone and showed her one of the photos I'd taken at the hotel. "Does this look made up to you?" Susan stared at the screen, her mouth falling open. "Oh my God, is that really them?" "That's really them, along with about 50 other photos, 3 months of phone records, and receipts from hotels charged to their joint credit card." Word spread through the party like wildfire. Within minutes, I was surrounded by curious coworkers, all wanting to see the evidence. I obliged them, showing photo after photo, receipt after receipt. "She used company money for some of these hotels," Lisa whispered, looking at the receipts. "That's why Jordan got fired." "Wait," said another woman. "Paige told us Jordan was fired because you made false accusations against him." "The only false thing here," I said loudly enough for half the party to hear, "is everything Paige has been telling you." I could see Paige across the pavilion, watching the crowd around me grow larger and more animated. Her face was pale, her hands shaking as she realized what was happening. "Ladies and gentlemen," I called out, raising my beer, "I'd like to propose a toast." The entire party went quiet. Everyone turned to look at me, including Paige. "To honesty," I said, my voice carrying across the pavilion. "To loyalty, to people who keep their promises and honor their commitments, and to the importance of knowing the difference between love and lies." I took a long drink, then continued. "Some of you know me as Paige's ex-fiancé. What you might not know is that I spent 6 months working overtime to buy her the perfect engagement ring. 2 carats, princess cut, $8,000. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. What you definitely don't know is that while I was working those extra hours, Paige was working extra hours too, with Jordan Witt, in hotel rooms, paid for with our joint credit card." The murmurs turned to gasps. "Now, I'm just a contractor. I build things for a living, but I know the difference between a solid foundation and one that's rotten underneath. And when I find rot, I remove it." I looked directly at Paige. All of it. The silence was deafening. Then someone started clapping, then someone else. Within seconds, half the party was applauding. Paige pushed through the crowd, her face red with rage and humiliation. "How dare you?" she screamed. "How dare you come here and humiliate me in front of my colleagues?" "Your colleagues?" I laughed. "Paige, you don't work here anymore. Remember? You got fired for sleeping with your supervisor." "I was suspended, not fired." "Check your email." She fumbled for her phone, her hands shaking. I watched her face as she read the message I knew would be there, the one Lisa had warned me about an hour earlier. "Effective immediately, your employment with Morrison and Associates is terminated for violation of company policy and misuse of company resources." Paige looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. "You did this. You destroyed my life." "No, Paige. You destroyed your life. I just made sure everyone could see the damage." She lunged at me then, claws out, screaming like a banshee. I caught her wrists easily, holding her at arm's length while she thrashed and cursed. "Let me go! Let me go, you bastard!" "Security!" someone called out. 2 security guards appeared and gently but firmly escorted Paige toward the parking lot. She was still screaming threats and obscenities as they led her away. The party resumed, but the mood had changed. People kept coming up to me, offering sympathy, sharing their own stories of workplace affairs and betrayal. "You handled that with class," said Margaret Walsh, the HR director. "A lot of men would have gotten violent." "Violence is for people who can't think of anything better," I replied. "I prefer psychological warfare." She laughed. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." As the evening wound down, Tina and I walked back to my truck. "That was brutal," she said. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost? Then I remembered how she treated you, and the feeling passed. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You think you've won, but this isn't over. I'll make you pay for what you did to me. I showed the message to Tina. Paige? Has to be. Jordan's still in jail. You worried? I thought about it for a moment, then smiled. No. Let her come. I'm just getting started. But as we drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that Paige wasn't done fighting. She was desperate now, cornered, with nothing left to lose. That made her dangerous. I was right to be worried. The real war was just beginning. The brick came through my front window at 3 a.m, wrapped in a note that read, You ruined my life. Now I'll ruin yours. I found Paige's car parked across the street, engine running. When she saw me looking, she gunned it and disappeared into the night. The next morning brought worse news. Someone had called my biggest client, Mrs. Henderson, and told her I was unstable and dangerous. They'd also called the Better Business Bureau with complaints about my work, and somehow gotten my contractor's license suspended pending investigation. It's temporary, the licensing board assured me over the phone, but we have to take all complaints seriously. What complaints exactly? Allegations of unsafe work practices, unlicensed electrical work, and threats made against a former client. I knew exactly who the former client was. Paige was fighting dirty now, using every piece of personal information she'd gathered over 3 years to destroy my business. My phone rang. Big Mike. Logan, we got problems. Someone spray-painted fraud across the side of the work truck, and there's a woman here claiming you owe her money. What woman? Says her name is Gloria. Paige's mom. She's got some kind of legal document. I drove to the job site to find Gloria Ellington holding court with my crew, waving around what looked like an official court summons. There he is, she announced as I got out of my truck. The man who destroyed my daughter's life. Your daughter destroyed her own life, Gloria. I just documented it. You manipulated her, turned her against a good man who loved her. Jordan Witt, the guy who's currently in jail for assault and destruction of property? That's your fault, too. You drove him to it. She thrust the papers at me. You're being sued for defamation, harassment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We're asking for $200,000 in damages. I scanned the document quickly. It was real, filed by some bottom-feeder lawyer who specialized in nuisance lawsuits. This is garbage, Gloria. Everything I said was true, and I have evidence to prove it. We'll see about that in court. She climbed into her Mercedes and drove away, leaving me standing there with a lawsuit that could bankrupt me even if I won. That evening, I was sitting in my garage trying to figure out my next move when Tina showed up with a six-pack and a grim expression. I've got news, she said. Good news and bad news. Bad news first. Paige and Jordan are working together now. He made bail this morning, and someone saw them at the Riverside Hotel having what looked like a strategy session. And the good news? They're both desperate and stupid. That makes them predictable. She was right. Over the next few days, Paige and Jordan's campaign against me became increasingly sloppy and obvious. Anonymous complaints that could be traced back to them, fake online reviews that used language identical to Paige's previous emails, even a clumsy attempt to plant stolen tools on my job site. They're trying too hard, I told Tina as we reviewed the evidence, making too many mistakes. So what's our play? I smiled. We give them what they want, a big public confrontation where they can air all their grievances. That sounds dangerous. It is, for them. The annual Riverside Neighborhood Block Party was scheduled for Saturday, a big community event with food trucks, live music, and half the town in attendance. Perfect venue for the final act of this drama. I spent the week preparing, gathering every piece of evidence I'd collected over the past month, photos, recordings, documents, witness statements, everything organized and ready for public consumption. Saturday arrived bright and sunny. The block party was in full swing when I arrived, families everywhere, kids playing in the street, the smell of barbecue in the air. I'd been there about an hour when I spotted them. Paige and Jordan, working the crowd like politicians, telling anyone who'd listen about the crazy contractor who'd ruined their lives. There he is, Paige shouted when she saw me. That's him. That's the man who's been stalking and harassing us. A crowd began to gather. I could see people looking back and forth between us, trying to figure out what was happening. Logan Barrett, Jordan announced loudly. You're going to pay for what you did to us. What I did to you, I laughed. Jordan, you stole my fiancée, destroyed my relationship, and then attacked me with a crowbar. What exactly did I do to you? You ruined my career, got me fired. You got yourself fired when you used company money to pay for hotel rooms with your subordinate. The crowd was growing larger, people pulling out phones to record the confrontation. "That's a lie!" Paige screamed. "He's been stalking us, threatening us, trying to destroy our lives." "Really?" I pulled out my phone and connected it to a portable speaker I'd brought for this exact purpose. "Let's hear what you really think about me, Paige." I played the recording from her Facetime call with her mother, the one where she'd said she'd never marry a man who builds walls for a living. The crowd went silent. "That was private," she shrieked. "So was my trust in you, but you made it public when you decided to cheat on me." I played another recording, Jordan bragging at the bar about sleeping with my girlfriend. "This is illegal," Jordan shouted. "You can't record people without their permission." "Actually, I can. Single-party consent state. Look it up." More recordings followed. Paige talking to her friends about how she was just having fun with me. Jordan discussing his plans to get me fired from my job. Their strategy session at the hotel where they'd planned to frame me for harassment. By the time I finished, the crowd was firmly on my side. People were booing Paige and Jordan, shouting questions about the stolen money and the affair. "You want to know who Logan Barrett really is?" Paige screamed desperately. "He's a violent, unstable man who threatened to kill us." "When did I threaten to kill you, Paige? You said you'd build Jordan a coffin." "I said I'd build him a coffin if he came to my house uninvited. That's called defending my property, not making serious threats." Jordan stepped forward, his face red with rage. "You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've won?" "I know I've won, Jordan. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" He took the bait. With hundreds of people watching, Jordan Witt, already on probation for assault, threw a punch at me. I ducked easily, letting his momentum carry him past me. He stumbled, caught himself, and came at me again. This time, I didn't dodge. I caught his fist in my hand and squeezed until he dropped to his knees. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced to the crowd. "Jordan Witt, everyone, violating his probation in front of half the neighborhood." Someone had already called the police. They arrived just as Jordan was getting back to his feet, ready for another round. "That's him, officer," I said calmly. "The man on probation for assault who just threw a punch at me in front of 200 witnesses." Jordan was arrested on the spot, led away in handcuffs for the second time in a month. Paige tried to slip away in the chaos, but I wasn't done with her yet. "Leaving so soon, Paige? But we haven't discussed your lawsuit yet." She froze. "That's right, folks. Paige here is suing me for $200,000 for telling the truth about her affair. She claims I defamed her by showing people photographs of her cheating on me." I pulled out a folder full of documents. Fortunately, I've got some documents of my own, like this affidavit from the hotel manager confirming that Paige and Jordan were regular guests, and this statement from Jordan's ex-wife, who apparently went through something very similar. Paige's face went white. And my personal favorite, bank records showing that Paige spent our entire wedding fund on her affair. $8,000 that was supposed to pay for our honeymoon, gone, spent on hotel rooms and fancy dinners with her boyfriend. The crowd was getting ugly now, shouting accusations at Paige, calling her names I won't repeat. "You destroyed us," she screamed at me over the noise. "We had everything, and you destroyed it." "No, Paige, you destroyed it. I just made sure everyone could see what you really are." She tried to run then, but the crowd was too thick. People were blocking her path, demanding answers, asking about the stolen money. In desperation, she turned back to me and did something I'll never forget. She attacked me. Right there, in front of hundreds of people, Paige Ellington lost what was left of her mind. She came at me with her fingernails, screaming and clawing like a wild animal. I caught her wrists easily, holding her at arm's length while she thrashed and cursed and completely destroyed what was left of her reputation. "Get off me," she shrieked. "Let me go, you psychopath." "Paige," I said calmly, "you're making a scene. I hate you. I hate you. You ruined everything." The police moved in then, gently but firmly separating us. They didn't arrest her, she hadn't actually hurt me, but they did escort her to her car and strongly suggested she leave. As she was being led away, Paige turned back to me one last time. "This isn't over, Logan. I'll get you for this." "Yes, it is over, Paige. It's been over since the moment I heard you tell your mother I wasn't good enough for you." She was still screaming threats as the police car followed her out of the neighborhood. The crowd began to disperse, but not before dozens of people came up to shake my hand, pat my back, tell me I'd handled the situation with class. "That took guts," said one older man, "standing up for yourself like that." "Sometimes you have to fight for what's right," I replied. As the sun set over the neighborhood, I sat on my front porch with a beer, watching the cleanup crews take down the party decorations. My phone had been buzzing all evening. Friends, co-workers, even potential clients who'd heard about what happened. Tina appeared with another beer and sat down beside me. "So," she said, How does it feel? How does what feel? Winning, getting your revenge, destroying the people who tried to destroy you. I thought about it for a long moment. It feels like justice, I said finally. It feels like the truth finally came out, and the right people got what they deserved. And Paige? Any regrets about what happened to her? I looked at the broken pieces of the engagement ring, still scattered in my driveway where I'd left them as a reminder. She made her choice, Tina. She chose Jordan over me. Lies over truth, money over love. I didn't destroy her life, I just stopped letting her destroy mine. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Barrett. This is Detective Rodriguez with the Fraud Division. We've completed our investigation into the credit card charges you reported. We'll need you to come in Monday to sign some paperwork, but I wanted you to know we're filing charges against both suspects. Both of them. Ms. Ellington and Mr. Witt. Conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and several other charges. They're looking at serious jail time if convicted. After I hung up, Tina whistled low. Jail time? That's harsh. That's justice. They stole from me, lied about me, tried to destroy my business and my reputation. Now they get to face the consequences. As we sat there in the gathering darkness, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. The war was over. I'd won. Not through violence or illegal schemes, but through patience, intelligence, and the simple power of truth. Paige and Jordan had underestimated me, dismissed me as just another blue-collar nobody who didn't know his place. They'd forgotten that the same skills that let me build houses also let me tear them down, piece by piece, until nothing was left but rubble. They'd wanted to play games with a contractor. Now they knew what it felt like to be demolished.